All right, guys.
Hello.
How you doing?
First things first. How are you?
We're doing great.
Yeah.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
The city of grass.
Good introduction. So before we talk about the latest record and the music, I'd like to go a couple years back. So, Seb, what is your first memory of the band?
My first memory of any member of the band was in high school. There's this thing called troubadours. I don't know if they do it in school in Europe, but effectively during the holidays, like a caroling group comes around to each class during the school day. And Max, before I even knew anyone in the band, any of them, I was probably in 10th grade, so I was 16 and he was 17. And he came into my classroom. I had 4 classes a day. He came into every single one. It happened to be that way, that his caroling group came into all 4 of my classes, and he was dressed in an elf suit, like a full Santa worker's elf suit. And he came over and he'd start giving me these seductive dances and effectively giving me a lap dance, and he was kissing on my neck and hands, and I just remember thinking, who the fuck is this kid? What a fucking freak. And then now he's one of my best friends. So.
and so once you kind of heard the music that Max and Cole were
Yeah.
playing, so what was your first impression of the music?
I just remember there was always a buzz about Cole, Max, and Joey's band in high school, and then I used to play saxophone with them, and they asked me to play saxophone with them, and then they were maybe learn bass, and so I ended up learning bass, and it's been fun.
So I believe that was around 2014 when you kind of. So was that not a difficult time for the band, but the dynamics obviously changed. So was there an adjustment period to kind of get?
We kind of treated it like we were starting a new band, you know? And so when you start a new band, it's always kind of just, there's an awkward phase where you're not you have fun with each other, but you're not comfortable around each other. Now,
Yeah, I mean,
we'll get naked in front of each other. We don't care. We know each other better than.
I spoon with my bandmates
yeah.
more than any girl I ever have.
He lactates from his third nipple, and I drink the milk.
It's we're that close.
Yeah.
But definitely Swimmers in 2014, 2015 was way different than Swimmers 2017. Not in a bad way, but it's just
we're more comfortable now.
There's an evolution process.
Yeah. It starts like this, and then it goes, and then finally it's like this.
But it is interesting because obviously you started as Emily's Army. So when was there a moment or a kind of feeling that you had when you thought, well, we should start over in a way?
Yeah, I guess, we started out kind of in this really cool, vibrant East Bay DIY scene.
Right.
And we did a bunch of shows around then, and it was really cool. And somewhere along the line, we just we realized that it was time to start over, because I think for us, we knew we weren't a gimmick. We knew we were the real thing, but it ended up there was just a lot of things were out of our control, and we ended up having this identity that didn't reflect who we were as a band at all. And so we were all right, it's time to really start from scratch and do things the way we know how to do them and have full control this time.
Was that based on how people in the audience perceived you, or the kind of the management around it?
Not the management at all.
I think it was the music.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
It was partially the music, and then it ended up being the shows we were playing, we were in the wrong world that,
Right, and so then, things changed a bit. New name, new kind of the lineup shifted. So what was the first song or the first kind of moment that you felt, okay, now we're heading in the right direction?
Man, maybe it was Harry D.
I think it was when we were we were on our last Emily's Army tour, effectively.
Yeah.
And Max was like, I have this song,
But
and it's called
Jamal.
It's called Jamal Gamal. It's about this dude that we know from Berkeley High. And we were like, really? That's kind of a weird thing that you would have a song about that. And so then he started playing it, and we're like, oh, it's a cool sounding song though.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, he kept playing. I was like Harry Dean, and B James Dean. And so then all of a sudden we were like, oh, we could play this tomorrow.
And it was our
Yeah,
it was Reading and Leeds.
Yeah.
I think it was like my 5th show ever playing bass live. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I got to pull through.
Yeah.
So how did the gig go?
It went great.
It went really well.
Yeah.
You know, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chords. 5 chords in the whole song.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, it was pretty straightforward, and
But
yeah.
you kind of touched upon how those lyrics come together. And then obviously you have some songs where the lyrics are very important. How do they generally come together? Do you think about them beforehand, or is it something that happens while you're making the music?
You know, I think with every song, the best songs that Max and I have written have been like, you can sit down and try to write a song, but there's a little, the way that Tom Waits describes it is, there's a little writer that lives inside of you. And when you listen to music, you're feeding that little writer. You're just giving him, you're letting him grow, or them letting that little writer grow. And every once in a while, that little writer will just come out and be like, I'm ready to write something. And so you have to be ready. And like, I remember, Do You Have a Car? I wrote in 5 minutes because it was, that was what the little writer wanted to do.
But so can I assume then you can't force these moments?
Exactly, yeah. And so the moment with Harry Dean was very natural. It was just like,
Yeah, it was pretty
cool because we were all kind of synced on it.
Yeah.
And then, so do you have to be together in a room to kind of get a song out, or is it something you do?
You know, it starts as Max and me alone, but to get the arrangement and the actual like really feeling, the reason that it becomes a SWMRS song is because all of us at different moments will have that writer come out and approach that song, you know?
Sure. And you mentioned the scene kind of that you found yourselves in a couple of years ago. So, do you still consider yourselves part of that scene now, but in a different form?
You know, I think you can't ignore the different music scenes we come from, but at the same time, we like to identify outside of any scene because scene like a good band and good songs will never die. Scenes always will, and so to strive to be beyond a scene is what we've always tried to do, you know. And that doesn't mean we don't feel this bond with other bands from California that have been coming out recently, you know, because there are such strong connections between us and say like I don't know, like this band No Parents and you know,
someone like Culture Abuse.
Yeah, someone like Culture Abuse. Like they're part of our scene per se, but we don't want to like. That's not something we identify as. You know, it's just we have that relationship with them.
This is very interesting then, because and this might be impossible to answer, but what makes a good song? What to you? What is necessary for a song to transcend kind of those boundaries, as you said?
You know, it's not one of those things that's easily described with words. The best way to describe it is just by giving an example, right?
Pale Blue Eyes I think is one of the best songs that's ever been made.
Right.
Because it is such an honest song.
And there's just the recognizable aspect to it, you know? Like there's that guitar line. And then Lou Reed is just like, sometimes I feel so. There's like it's honest. That's what makes the best songs is honesty.
Sorry.
And it's like it's not like you can. It's like never like something where you can sit down and be like, okay, now I'm gonna write an honest song. Like when you say like the best song is honest, it's not about being like, okay, what's the most honest way I could write a song? Like that's not like that.
It's just something that kind of happens. And
exactly.
Like you say,
Leave
it. That's fine.
Like Cole was saying earlier.
And you have that little writer, and then
and you know, I think some of like people who really captured that spirit, like, you know, I don't know if they're on lists of like the best songs ever, but they capture that spirit so well. Is like Krautrock, right? Because it's all such a natural, honest. It's about a relationship between band members and how the music plays off of itself, you know.
So, and then this is somewhat of a mean question, but on Drive North, which song do you think you've come closest to kind of capturing this?
I think Miley.
Okay.
Or Lose It.
Well, let's take Miley. How come that's track?
You know, because I was thinking about it the other day, and I've started to put together lists of songs that I've written and that Max has written in like kind of like a preliminary round of thinking about a second album.
Okay.
And I was like, well, there's kind of a hole here that people are going to be people are going to expect to be filled, that we had with a song like Miley, where it's like this perfect balance of wittiness and like just like it's odd, and it has this pure energy, and the tempo, it goes up and down, and it's like there's an urgency about that song that it like you like I realized I was like, you know, we can't try to have another song like Miley,
Right.
because that song is, if people want Miley, they can listen to Miley, you know. And then moving forward, there'll be other songs that approach perfection, but they don't have the same elements,
Right.
you know, the same funny kind of punchline to them that Miley does.
And part of it, I kind of touched upon it earlier, but there's substance in it as well. So, is it important for you when you make the music that people take away something from it, that it makes them think in a way?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, at the end of the day, you can only put so much of your own meaning into a song you've written, because that song is gonna mean something different to every person, right. You know? And so with a song like Miley, I think the general takeaway is to let yourself be yourself, you know? And I think that's one of our most important messages that shows up throughout our music, is just being yourself and loving yourself and doing whatever the fuck you want to do. But with that, it means that when you listen to one of our songs, it doesn't have to mean the same thing to you that it means to us.
So finally then, because you kind of mentioned that you're thinking already about a new album, I think the previous one has only been released for 5 months or 6 months. So what have you noticed about where your mind is going now?
That's a really good question. I think, you know, like I think that when I try to write lyrics, they end up being a little bit more obscure, and so I'm like, you know, figuring out how to restructure them so that they follow the same kind of narrative that songs on Drive North do, you know, have that kind of storytelling aspect that people like. And just, you know, there's as much, when we wrote Drive North, when we made Drive North, we had listened at that point to 18 years of music.
Sure.
And now we've got 21, 23 years of listening to music under our belts, so we're going to approach it with a completely different set of influences, whether we understand that or not, you know.
And then very quickly, you don't have to go into it, but what's one band you've been listening to lately?
I always like prepare for this question, and when it comes time, I can never.
For me, Toys That Kill.
Okay.
I've been really into that band we mentioned earlier, Culture Abuse. They put out a really good record. I listen to that a lot.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.